Hello, hello, hello. This is Tiffany with Healthy Passions. If you do not know me, let me briefly introduce myself. I am a certified personal trainer, certified wellness coach, certified energy healer by birth. I am an oracle, prophetess, and a natural healer. I wasn't expecting the storm today, even though I knew a cold front was coming in. So if you hear thundering and lightning in the background, that is a storm. But knowing that I have the Most High knows I have a slight fear of the storms here, so he told me to just keep working and focus on like doing the videos and getting those done, so that I don't have to focus on the actual storm. And I'm cool with that. So let's get started. So we're gonna finish off some of these the 613 commandments. Hopefully, we'll get done today. And the section that we are starting in is sacrifices and offerings. Sacrifices and offerings. If you are keeping up in numerical order, we are at 459. So we're going to start at 459. As in with before, I'm going to state the commandment and then give the scripture and verse. All right. 459. To sanctify the firstling of clean cattle and offer it up. To sanctify the firstling of clean cattle and offer it up. Exodus 13:2, Exodus 13:2, Deuteronomy 15:19. Deuteronomy 15:19. Now, on some of these ones, like I said before, um, that one there, we don't do the physical offering of any cattle or animal at this time because Christ Yahushua, who the world mistakenly calls Jesus, became the ultimate sacrifice. So some of these still apply, but if they don't apply anymore and we're just using them for historical reference, I will specify. All right, 460, to slay the Paschal lamb. To slay the Paschal lamb. Exodus 12:6. That's from the past. 461. 461. To eat the flesh of the Paschal sacrifice on the night of the 15th of Nisan. To eat the flesh of the Paschal sacrifice on the night of the 15th of Nisan. That's also going to be in Exodus 12. I didn't get the verse for some reason, but it's in that general area of Exodus 12:6. All right, so 462, not to eat the flesh of the Paschal lamb raw or sudden. Not to eat the flesh of the Paschal lamb raw or sudden. Exodus 12:9. Exodus 12:9. 463, to leave any not to leave any portion of flesh of the Paschal sacrifice until the morning unconsumed. Not to leave any portion of the flesh of the Paschal lamb sacrifice until the morning unconsumed. Exodus 12:10. Exodus 12:10. 464. Not to give the flesh of the Paschal lamb to an Israelite who has become an apostate. That's A as in Paul. A as in Apple, P as in Paul, O, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, A, T as in Tom, E. Not to give the flesh of the Paschal lamb to an Israelite who has become an apostate. Exodus 12:43. Exodus 12:43. Number 465. Not to give the flesh of the Paschal lamb to a stranger who lives among you to eat. Not to give the flesh of the Paschal lamb to a stranger who lives among you to eat. Exodus 12:45. Exodus 12:45. 466. Not to take any of the flesh of the Paschal lamb from the company's place of assembly. Not to take any of the flesh of the Paschal lamb from the company's place of assembly. Exodus 12:46. Exodus 12:46. And when we do these in remembrance of, even though we don't do the actual sacrifice, says the meals for these festivals and stuff, these rules still apply. 467. 467. Not to break a bone of the Paschal lamb. Not to break a bone of the Paschal lamb. Exodus 12:46. Exodus 12:46. 468. Not 468. That the uncircumcised shall not eat of the flesh of the paschal lamb, that the uncircumcised shall not eat of the flesh of the paschal lamb. Exodus 12:48. Exodus 12:48. 469. Not to slaughter the paschal lamb while there is leaven in the home. Not to slaughter the paschal lamb while there is leaven in the home. That's going to be Exodus 23:18, Exodus 23:18, and also Exodus 24:25. Exodus 24:25. Remember, in a lot of these, we are to remove the leaven from the food as well as the entire home during the time of that festival or celebration or holiday. 470. Not to leave the part of the paschal lamb that should be burnt on the altar until the morning, comma, when it shall no longer be fit to be burnt. Not to leave the part of the paschal lamb that should be burnt on the altar until the morning, comma, when it is no longer fit to be burnt. Exodus 23:18, Exodus 23:18, and also Exodus 24:25. Exodus 24:25. 471. Not to go up to the sanctuary for the festival without bringing an offering. This is important. Not to go up to the sanctuary for the festival without bringing an offering. Exodus 23:15. Exodus 23:15. 472. To bring the first fruits to the sanctuary. To bring the first fruits to the sanctuary. Exodus 23:19. Exodus 23:19. 473. Not to eat, excuse me. I'm sorry, I did get ahead of myself. All right. 473. That the flesh of a sin offering and guilt offering shall be eaten. That the flesh of a sin offering and a guilt offering shall be eaten. Exodus 29:33. Exodus 29:33. 474. That one not of the seed of Aaron shall not eat of the flesh of the holy sacrifices. That one not of the seed of Aaron shall not eat of the flesh of the holy sacrifices. Exodus 29:33. Exodus 29:33. Remember, Aaron was the bloodline of the high priest. 475. To observe the procedure of the burnt offering. To observe the procedure of the burnt offering. Leviticus 1:3. Leviticus 1:3. Thank you, Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit wanted to make sure not to just observe them, like watch to make sure that it's done correctly, but also um, do each part of the procedure. All right. 478. That every sacrifice be salted. That every sacrifice be salted. Leviticus 2:13. Leviticus 2:13. 479. Not to offer up any offering unsalted. Not to offer up any offering unsalted. Leviticus 2:13. Leviticus 2:13. 480. That the court of judgment shall offer up a sacrifice if they have erred in a judicial pronouncement. That the court of judgment shall offer up a sacrifice if they have erred in a judicial pronouncement. Leviticus 4:13. Leviticus 4:13. 481. That an individual should bring a sin offering if he has sinned in error by committing a transgression. That an individual shall bring a sin offering if he has sinned in error, ERROR, by committing a transgression. Leviticus 4:27. Leviticus 4:27. 482. To offer a sacrifice of varying value in accordance with one's means. To offer a sacrifice of varying value in accordance with one's means. Leviticus 5:7. Leviticus 5:7. 483. Not to sever. Let me make sure that's right. Not to sever completely. Okay, not to sever. Sorry about that. I do apologize. Not to serve, sever, not to server. I'm so country. Sever, like to cut. Not to sever completely the head of a fowl brought as a sin offering. Not to sever completely the head of a fowl brought as a sin offering. Leviticus 5:8. Leviticus 5:8. 484. Not to put olive oil in a sin offering made of flour. Not to put olive oil in a sin offering made of flour. Leviticus 5:11. Leviticus 5:11. 486. Excuse me, 485. 485. Not to put frankincense on a sin offering made of flour. Not to put frankincense on a sin offering made of flour. 5:11. Leviticus 5:11. Let me correct that. I didn't put Leviticus there. I do apologize for the noise. My family is up and they are making a lot of noise. All right. 486. That an individual shall bring an offering if he is in doubt as to whether he has committed a sin for which one has to bring a sin offering. That an individual shall bring an offering if he is in doubt as to whether he has committed a sin for which one has to bring a sin offering. Leviticus 5:17 through 19. Leviticus 5:17 through 19. One moment. All right, let's get back to it. This one's kind of long, so it'll probably be by itself. 487. That the remainder of a meal offerings shall be eaten. That the remainder of a meal offering shall be eaten. Leviticus 6:9. Leviticus 6:9. 488. Not to allow the remainder of a meal offerings to become leavened. Not to allow the remainder of a meal offerings to become leavened. Leviticus 6:10. Leviticus 6:10. 489. That the high priest shall offer a meal offering daily. That the high priest shall offer a meal offering daily. Leviticus 6:13. Leviticus 6:13. 490. Not to eat of a meal offering brought by Aaron and his sons. Not to eat of a meal offering brought by Aaron or his sons. Leviticus 6:16. Leviticus 6:16. 491. To observe the procedure of a sin offering. To observe the procedure of a sin offering. Leviticus 6:18. Leviticus 6:18. 492. Not to eat of the flesh of a sin offerings, comma, the blood of which is brought within the sanctuary and sprinkled towards the veil. Not to eat the flesh of a sin offerings, comma, the blood of which is brought within the sanctuary and sprinkled towards the veil. Leviticus 6:23. Leviticus 6:23. That is one of the ones that no longer applies. 493. 493. To observe the procedure of the guilt offering. To observe the procedure of the gift offering. Leviticus 7:1. Leviticus 7:1. To observe the procedure of the peace offering. To observe the procedure of the peace offering. Leviticus 7:11. Leviticus 7:11. 495. To burn meat of the holy sacrifice that has remained over. To burn the meat of a holy sacrifice that has remained over. Leviticus 7:17. Leviticus 7:17. 496. Not to eat of a sacrifice that are eaten beyond the appointed time for eating. not to eat of sacrifices that are eaten beyond the appointed time for eating them. Leviticus 7:18. Leviticus 7:18. Give me a second here. There we go. I had to make a correction. 497. Not to eat of holy things that have become unclean. Not to eat of holy things that have become unclean. Leviticus 7:19. Leviticus 7:19. 498. To burn the meat of holy sacrifices that has become unclean. To burn the meat of holy sacrifices that have become unclean or has become unclean. Leviticus 7:19. Leviticus 7:19. 499. That a person who is unclean shall not eat of things that are holy. That a person who is unclean shall not eat of things that are holy. Leviticus 7:20. Leviticus 7:20. Number 500. A priest's daughter who profaned herself shall not eat of the holy things, comma, neither of the heave offering, nor of the beast, comma, nor of the shoulder of peace offerings. A priest's daughter who profaned herself shall not eat of the holy things, comma, neither of the heave offering, nor of the beast, comma, nor of the shoulder of peace offering, period. Leviticus 10:14. Leviticus 10:14. Also Leviticus 22:12. Leviticus 22:12. Number 501. That a woman after childbirth shall bring an offering when she is clean. That a woman after childbirth shall bring an offering when she is clean. Leviticus 12:6. Leviticus 12:6. 502. That a leper shall bring a sacrifice after he is clean. That a leper shall bring a sacrifice after he is cleansed. Leviticus 14:10. Leviticus 14:10. 503. That a man having an issue shall bring a sacrifice after he is cleansed of his issue. That a man having an issue shall bring a sacrifice after he is cleansed of his issue. Leviticus 15 verses 13 through 15. Leviticus 15 verses 13 through 15. Number 504. That a woman having an issue shall bring a sacrifice after she is cleansed of her issue. That a woman having an issue shall bring a sacrifice after she is cleansed of her issue. Leviticus 15:28 through 30. Leviticus chapter 15, verses 28 through 30. We might not make it to the 20-minute mark, so I might have to cut this in half because anything longer than 20 minutes takes too long to load, so I'm just going to cut it off at about 20 minutes. All right. 505. To observe, comma, on Yom Kippur, and that is spelled Y-O-M, capital K-I-P-P-U-R, capital Y-O-N, separate word, K-I-P-P-U-R, comma, the service appointed for that day, comma, regarding the sacrifice, comma, confessions, comma, sending away of the scapegoat, comma, etc. To observe, comma, on Yom Kippur, the service appointed for that day, comma, regarding the sacrifices, comma, confessions, comma, sending away of the scapegoat, etc. Leviticus chapter 16 verses 3 through 34. Leviticus chapter 16 verses 3 through 34. 506. Not to slaughter beasts set apart for sacrifices outside the sanctuary. Not to slaughter beast set apart for sacrifice outside the sanctuary. Leviticus 17:3 through 4. Leviticus chapter 17, 3 through 4 for the scripture. 507. Not to eat not to eat the flesh of a sacrifice that has been left over beyond the time appointed for its consumption. Not to eat flesh of a sacrifice that has been left over beyond the time appointed for its consumption. Leviticus 1:8. Leviticus 1:8. We're going to stop it here and open the second video, and we'll start with the same section. Thank you. Give me one moment.